Welcome to the Holistic Pathway podcast, unscripted conversations on mind, body, spirit, and entrepreneurship. A new video series podcast where we dive deep into the holistic integration of life and business. I am Tammy Coyne, your holistic alchemist, helping you change pain into possibilities and possibilities into purpose. Today's chat is with Rose Henry. Rose is a holistic coach who embraces the vibrant tapestry of life. She's a compassionate mentor who understands that everyone's journey involves unique struggles with a deep passion for mindfulness. She has helped countless beautiful souls shift from feeling lost to fully thriving through her simple yet profound techniques and programs. In a nutshell, Rose reconnects with their inner frequency, empowering them to live authentically and vibrantly from the heart. I'm so excited for our chat, and I hope you will stay tuned. All right. Yay, Rose. Good to see you. Good to see you. We're actually meeting face to face kind of for the first time, right? I think we met in a business group in this crazy world that we now call the internet. So how are you doing?
I'm so good, and I'm so glad that we did meet.
Me too.
Isn't it amazing how small the world is when you actually think that we're on other sides of the world, and yet here we are having a good chat, relaxing, and really, I think getting in tune with each other. I think it's really lovely.
I love it too because it's noon where I am, and I think it's 8 p.m. where you are, right?
Yeah, it's coming on to 8:30, so it's evening time.
Wow.
So I'm
So
really excited, Tanya. I'm excited to be with you. I'm
me
excited that we
too.
are going to just maybe have a little bit of time to have a look at how the world is moving around and how people are vibrating their energy out. I think it's always nice to talk and get these little nuggets from everybody, isn't it?
I think it's amazing. And for those who are watching, I do enjoy setting this up kind of like we're just out having lunch and enjoying each other. And Rose is actually in Ireland, and I'm coming from the United States in Arizona. So I love the fact that, I'm having lunch with you and you're maybe having dinner with me.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it?
So
Yeah.
I'm so interested in your work and what you do and kind of like how this journey all started for you. Like,
Yeah, I have to admit that when I was sort of between the ages of 6 and 11, I was very connected to spirit. But of course, at that age, I didn't know what it was,
yeah.
and it freaked my parents out a little bit. And so when I was 11, they kind of convinced me. My granddad used to come visit me, and I used to give messages to my nanny. She was a Tilly Frida, so she was quite spiritually connected. And when we moved to South Africa when I was 11, I used to astro travel to see my nan because I missed her so much because she was in Wales. And so when I was about 11 and a half, I think they convinced me that it was all taboo and it wasn't real. And so I switched it off. And then when I was 29, it was just amazing because I've always been spiritually connected. I just got on with life, and you have your family and you get married. And when I was 29, I was lying next to my husband, and this is no word of a lie. And it was about 2 in the morning, and my ceiling disappeared from the roof. The roof disappeared and the ceiling. And
Mhm.
there was this big white light going right up into the sky above. And first of all, I thought I was dreaming. And so I hid under the blankets. And of course, the words that I heard were, "Fear not, for God is with you." And of course, I'm not into the Bible. I believe in God, but I'm not somebody that would read the Bible.
Mhm.
And I used to go to Sunday school, but I think, that was about it because spiritually, my God is in my heart. And it was so weird because then I peeked out again because I thought maybe I was dreaming. And then I looked up again, and there was this beautiful golden crown, Archangel Gabriel, and with this big white light, and switched me on. And it was just the most profound experience. Trevor was lying next to me, and all I could see was the evening sky with the stars, with this big white beam of light, with this golden it was just like golden curls, like you would imagine an angel.
Mm.
And I still thought I was dreaming. And then that was the start of a journey that took me till I was 46 to trust.
Yeah.
Because I'm an evidence seeker. I'm really logical. I worked in corporate till I was 46 because I just thought I wanted evidence, like show me. I think sometimes we can be very skeptical. We're scared to trust our own intuition. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was so interesting. And then from 29, I started doing all the courses, read all the books. I always had an interest. I do tarot and angels and crystals, and I do all of that now full time for the last 14 years. But until I was 46, I just in Australia, I moved to Australia, I moved to South Africa, I moved to Ireland. I did any and all the courses I could to convince myself, I think, that I could trust what I was receiving, because I think as channels, we are just frequency. But
Mhm.
to try to explain it, you can't unless you've actually felt it, unless it's touched your life in some way.
Yeah.
But I still look for evidence, and I've been doing it now. I mean, I'm 60 now, so I've been doing it permanently for the last 14 years. There's so much evidence, but I still want more. So I think I'm just a very greedy spiritual evidence seeker, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it always improves you when you think that there's more to learn.
What
So
I
yes,
what
very
I
excited.
love is I all of our paths are so different and yet have so many connections. And what I love about that is because, and I think this is important for anyone who listens to the conversation, in that your experience isn't going to be like anyone else's experience. You may have things that go, oh, that's kind of similar, or oh, or I know what you mean, I resonate with that. But your experience is going to have so many different pieces. What I have found is that you have your human experience that's happening this lifetime, then you have all of these other lifetimes,
Yes,
then you have your higher self that comes in once the awakening happens, or multiple awakenings happen.
yes.
And then you become a combination, those start to integrate, you become all of these things. And so for me, I was an analyst in the federal government, so I was also very analytical. My number one strength is strategic thinking. So I'm a little weird in the spiritual path, but I'm also very weird in the analytical path, right?
Yeah,
Like I don't really fit in anybody's
I
world.
totally get it.
You know, and then I've always been someone who loved puzzles. I was a private investigator for a time. So all of those pieces come into not only my experience, my higher work, but it also is how I receive messages from spirit. Like my messages are often not straightforward. They're very puzzle-like. I'm always, it's like I'm on an adventure. I'm looking for clues. I'm putting pieces together and things
Yeah.
like that. And so that's the thing that people, I think it's so important for them to know, is that if you're out there looking for someone to tell you this is how it is,
No.
if they tell you this is how it is, please find someone else to help you,
Yeah.
because your path is going to be very unique. You can
Mm.
have guides, you can have coaches, mentors, counselors, teachers, whatever, but they don't have absolute information on what you're going to experience or receive.
Yeah.
And then you've got the piece where you are trying to navigate the human experience, either before or integrating with the higher self experience, can be quite the cluster.
Yeah.
You know
Because
what I
your
mean?
mind is it's like me coming to visit you, and I don't have a ticket to come on the plane to the US. So how do I get to you? So the mind sometimes is that airport that you don't have a ticket because the mind's stopping you from going past the go. So sometimes our mind wants to confuse anybody going through this journey. you can get very confused by your thoughts trying to beat down your intuition.
100%. And I've used the analogy before, and this happens a lot because a lot of my work is with the emotional side of things
Yeah.
and
The heart.
unhealed childhood wounds and things like that. That's a large part of my work. And part of what I've shared with people is like, if you've only seen this much, you can't possibly know there are things all around you.
Yeah.
And so many people have been taught to use their five senses to navigate, to
Yeah.
understand the world. But you see it clearly, I think, when people actually lose one of their five senses, when other things become heightened. So let's say they lose their eyesight, their hearing becomes heightened. Well, I think this is further proof, further evidence of what is available to us beyond what we think is available to
Yeah,
us.
absolutely. Because, I mean, if you think about it, soul talks to us, but we haven't learned our soul language. So if you went to Greece and they started talking to you, you wouldn't really understand them until you start to understand the language, or maybe you've got a phone that translates. So how do you get the librarian that sits in your crown chakra here? How do you get that librarian to really start to talk your language? Well, you start to trust a little bit, and maybe you ask for a sign. So, I think on a lot of our journeys, especially when everybody is so different, because remember, we've all been here. I believe it's not everybody's belief, so I respect everybody's belief, but I've been here thousands of times. And so you might have been here 80,000, I might have been here 90,000 or 70,000. And at the end of the day, we are trying to channel from this Akashic record wisdom, because you're born with wisdom, but you learn knowledge when you're here. And I just think it's so interesting that as soon as you start to say to your guide, to your librarian here that holds your records, okay, how can I get a sign so I know it's you? And then a sign is offered, then you start to trust. And when you start to trust, there's no going back, because then you get excited, because then you realize there's more to spiritual paths than you actually ever imagined. I love it.
Well, that's the thing. And what I've tried to share with those that I know who are going through dark night of the soul, which is kind of a misnomer because it gives you the idea that it's a human night when really I've had them last sometimes days, weeks, months, years, not knowing what was going on. And it often feels, at least for me, like worse than any severe depression I had ever felt. It was a very dark, dark time. And you start to believe that that's all there is. And it feels like you're separated. It feels like you're so alone. And if you can allow yourself to get into that space of surrender and that space of looking at it like an adventure,
Yeah, because it is.
even when you're scared, because I've said many times, my adventure felt like I walked into a dark cave and needed to take a step, but I could not see a path. And it felt like I was stepping into the abyss, but
Yeah.
I would step on one and then, okay, and then I'd try again, and the next one would show up. And so for the last many years, that's how I've lived my life. And people think it's so amazing. And I was like, well, this is what I was called to do. And you learn to embrace it,
Yeah.
you, I, I don't know if you can come out of the dark night of the soul if you don't allow yourself to embrace it. I'm not sure.
Because maybe this is the language that your soul is offering you in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's not the wrong language. It's just a language that you will be able to use as wisdom when you do come back one day again, because you've been through it.
Yeah.
And maybe the people that have been through it don't experience it. They experience it differently because they've had that portion. You could do the same thing 10,000 lifetimes. I believe in parallel lifetimes.
Yeah.
I really believe that we're just a frequency and we're having an experience. And I love to challenge. I challenge my guides all the time because they're not interfering with our free will and our breath. That is gifted to us when we're born. So there is, in my belief, destiny can help you if you are ignoring your path. Will throw something, a spanner in the works. But at the end of the day, destiny wants you to have free will to say, I choose to do this or I choose not to do this. So even though people think they have a destined path, in my experience, and I've been working with many, many people over many continents, it's more about not the actual path, but actually the, like you're saying, the journey of those stepping stones. Because
Mhm.
what if you're only meant to go on one of those stones in this lifetime and you're doing it and you're doing it pretty well, but you're impatient? You will be taught patience. That's the gift.
Well, it's so funny. And of course, synchronicity, and I'm getting all kinds of spirit confirmation as we speak. But I literally had a conversation on Monday with someone about the reason they found me was because of a video that I just did about free will and predestined. And so
Oh my
you
gosh.
literally just said the words. And so what my experience was is I talk a little bit about in that video, do I think you have free will? And I said yes, and do
Mm.
I think there's a predestination? Maybe yes, and like I don't know for you, but what I experienced was I fully believe in free will,
Yeah,
and it's a period to where it felt like the best analogy that I have is I felt like I was a log or a stick in a river that was rushing very fast. I could not touch the ground. I could not touch the sides. And in that period, I felt like free will had been taken. And it felt like, um, kind of like when you're a child, if someone were to said, I think you need to sit down, you're getting a little big for your britches. Okay, it felt like that. Like
yeah.
I was being
Slowed
given
down.
a very stern talking to that, look here, this is what you're here to do. You need to get to it. And so once I kind of got on board with that, then everything opened back up again, and again, I've not had this conversation with a lot of people, so I don't know if anyone else has experienced that. I don't know what to make of it. I just know what my experience was, and
Yeah.
it happened in 2019.
Okay. Okay. So there was definitely channeling going on there.
Yeah.
Most probably trying to teach you a language or continue your path, but maybe widen the path. I just find it very, very interesting. I mean, even today, when you think about it, and people are on these spiritual journeys, which is amazing, and nobody has the right to judge anybody else. At the end of the day, we all have our personal beliefs.
Yeah.
And, if I shouted, my God, he's in my heart, it's up to me to do that. And if I giggle with him and if I laugh at him and if I shout at him, which I do, believe me, all of those things, and bring in the light, the angels. I believe in angels, and that's such a personal thing to each individual, and yet we are starting as a global community. We're starting to realize, like, if we think about Google Mail and we send each other emails and it goes on this thing called www, Wide Area Network, and then we think about Gmail, which is your guide mail, which goes immediate. What is the difference? The difference is that I'm paying somebody to have a subscription so I can talk to the beautiful Tammy, or
Mm.
that I send a guide mail and I go to your soul and you come to my soul and they have a party in the middle, but they go immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So we can bring compassion and love and understanding into an issue or a situation or even a relationship if we send Gmails, guide mails from our guide to our partner, from our guide to our best friend, to say, or to our mother. I've still got my mum, and to say, Mum, are you okay? And I'm sending, because she lives quite far away, and I'm just sending you a big hug. So we can send it subliminally immediately. But we are taught to just get stuck, aren't we, in a physical body that says, press this key and then you can send the Gmail. I send Gmails all the time, and they're called guide mails.
100%. In fact, my mom is 1,000 miles from me, and every time I call her, she goes, "Well, I just got up and walked to the kitchen. I figured it was about time for you to call me." So, or she'll laugh and she'll go, "Well, I was just wondering what time you were going to call me." And so we definitely have that connection. And the thing about it is, there are some people who, and I would say all people have this, yet they don't maybe know that they have it, or they haven't quite tuned into it or allowed it or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious on your path, because you've been through multiple spiritual awakenings, I would call them. I have too. As a child, I became probably around 10 years old, Atlantis popped into my head, and I didn't know what that was, but I felt there was something about that that was connected to me, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what it was. I know as a child, I mentioned this to someone the other day. I learned that I was Aquarian, and I didn't really know what that meant, but I felt it was an honor. Like, I felt so honored to be called Aquarius.
Yeah.
And it was just funny things I think about from being a child. There was something else. Well, there were just other things. Like, I've always known that I was supposed to make a difference, but I didn't know what that meant. There was so much hard stuff going on in my life with trauma and abuse and loss that I know mostly I just thought, well, there has to be more. There has to be a reason for all of this, because I haven't done anything to deserve this, so I don't understand what's happening. And so I began to think, well, there must be more to this than that I just don't,
Yeah.
I just don't know what this means yet. And I was stuck in a really angry, depressed state for a very, very long time. So that brings me to the question I was going to have for you, because we are basically the same age. I'll be 60 in January.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so
Best age,
yeah,
best
we
age.
are.
I
So
love being 60.
I am wondering, have you found that for your path to kind of get where you are now, that you've had to do a whole lot of holistic healing as well?
Yes, I am very, very blessed. I think I talk to God every day, and I think He sends me. So loads of counselors would send me men and women. I'm very good with the men, healing the men, because I don't see anybody except as a chunk of energy. So it doesn't faze me who I speak to. I'll speak to the Pope, or I'll speak to the Prime Minister. It really wouldn't faze me, because I'm working with healing constantly, because we offer healing, we receive the healing back.
Yeah.
So I have been very, very blessed, because I've I've gone through hardship, but it's more in where I have chosen to walk away. When, like, I left Australia and we basically walked away with our suitcases, and we had to start from scratch. That was 14 years ago, because I was desperately unhappy. And I was living a very wealthy life, but I was so unhappy. It meant nothing.
Yeah.
So when we came back, we had nothing, and it meant the world. And there was the
I get
suffering. And
that.
maybe there was no suffering. There was suffering for 2 years, but maybe there was no suffering in terms of, I felt for the first time in my life when I was 46, freedom.
Yeah. Got it.
Freedom. And it felt like I could have been living in a tent, Tammy, in the back garden with the rain pouring down. And I could just feel like God and I just felt spiritually like Ireland. That's why I came to Ireland. I feel like I've been a soldier here in the 17th century on the walls. And I feel like I've come home.
Yeah.
And the minute we got here, I was home, and I felt like God put me, I call this God's hidden treasure, because it's this little tiny island, and with the most amazing people. And I just feel like I found my way, and then I found my freedom. Before that, I thought I was free, but I wasn't. I was
Yeah.
living people pleasing. I was living trying to chase the next buck. I was living passionately after hours. So I was a real slave driver because I worked in corporate. So I had goals and intentions, and you better bring me the results for sales. And I must admit, I wasn't a very pleasant person in those days because I had goals to achieve.
Mhm.
And I was very logical and very system driven. And so it was quite nice to look back and think, wow, you know, it's given me good foundations, but it's also made me realize that I still did my passion after hours. I'd bring all the staff in and do meditations and readings. And so they had two visions of me. They
Yeah.
had Rose the battle axe, and then they had Rose the spiritual woman, you know. And that's why when it came down to choosing and we left Australia, I just decided I'm going to follow my heart. And I would recommend it to anybody that's watching us chat, because
Yeah.
when you follow your heart, it can be a little bit rocky, but when you come and find your freedom, there is no going back. You just feel like, I keep saying God is good, but you just feel like you've just arrived, and it feels amazing.
100.
Frequency is where it's at. It's how you're feeling. You'll know straight away. So I always think about shopping. So if Tammy, if you said to me, Rose, I'm not really very well, can you go shopping for me? And then I say to you, yeah, Tammy, okay, I'll quickly shoot down the shops. And I come back and I bring you my Captain Morgan's rum and my Diet Coke and my chocolates. And I bring you chicken and you're vegetarian. And I didn't bother asking you for a list. And then you say, what the heck did you bring me, Rose? And then I say, well, if you didn't give me a list, I brought you what I like. So
Mhm.
this is the same thing Mrs. Universe does. I think that if you don't give Mrs. Universe your list, she's looking after 2 billion people, you get what she's putting in your trolley. So make sure you give her your list, because that makes all the difference.
Love that analogy. I think that's a great way to
Oh,
look
we've
at
got
it.
to do it
Yeah.
every morning. Go shopping before you climb out of bed. Go shopping. Go
Love it.
shopping for something, and don't go shopping for next week. You're not guaranteed next week. Go shopping for today. What do you want today? Do you want to be able to move your feet out of the bed and just get through today? Then go shopping for a little bit of contentment. Or do you want to go shopping for your business to grow? Then, like, I can sit in the shower and get really emotional because I'm just growing beautiful souls, and God is helping me, and I get really emotional. And of course, it all goes down the black hole because I'm releasing, so that when I climb out, I'm ready for the day.
Yeah, I love that. Well,
Yeah.
and my question about the holistic healing part of it, because again, often what we start doing for the world in our higher work is very connected to what our own path has been. And so when I work with the people versus the entrepreneurs, I'm calling this the spiritual entrepreneurs, spiritual seekers, is that for the seekers, oftentimes there's a holistic healing component. Like for me, my health started to deteriorate, and
Mm-hmm.
I started getting all kinds of diagnoses, and I started getting all kinds of prescriptions, and I started getting all of this. This was 2002. And
Okay.
so my body was just starting to break down. And so it was that I connected to the mind body connection. So I started learning about that. And then I ended up getting a master's in counseling. So I got that. And then I got some holistic education and I got that. And a lot of what I have created for like a signature program and a signature process came out of what I call my 4 magical pathways to peace and purpose, which were the mind body connection, mindfulness, mindset, and manifest. Because to me, these parts all go together. And sometimes the manifest part, some people have the idea that there's not work involved with the
Oh,
manifest part, which is
uh-huh.
not true.
No.
And the other part is that sometimes these other things, whether it be the mind body connection, mindfulness, or mindset, may be the obstacles keeping you from getting
Yeah.
that last
Yeah.
piece. And so I always start with sort of a health discussion with someone who's going to work with me, like, okay, let's talk about what symptoms have shown up for you, whether they were physical, whether they were emotional. The symptom might have been a diagnosis, it might have been a surgery, it might have been a broken bone, it might have been an addiction, it might have been this weird thing you noticed one day. It's like those, to me, that's when we start to kind of delve into metaphysical anatomy,
Yes.
starting to say, okay, let's see what your body is trying to tell you and help them tune into that language of their body.
Yeah. I I do something quite similar, Tammy. Especially with the people who are overseas, I have a half an hour session, but what I do is I go into their body and I have a conversation from their feet to their knees to their hips, and then to their tummy, to their heart, to their throat, to their mouth, and to their crown. And their body tells me stuff, and tells me stuff about the physical more. So like the ages 0 to 7 or 7 to 14, mother side or father side. And then I can give that back to them. I will say this, that when you offer this beautiful energy of healing, it can really catapult balance into somebody's physical being so deep that their heart, you know, your heart, if you think about it, is 4 chambers. It's the earth, wind, fire, and water. And then, of course, your sixth sense is your soul. And if something is clogged, if your emotions are clogged and the bloods aren't going and you've got low blood pressure or whatever, as soon as you clear that, you are an open channel to then receive your intuitive self. And intuition is free. And intuition comes in oodles of energy. And people are so nervous to trust what their body is saying to them. And suddenly somebody's saying to you, actually, you can trust it, Rose. I think that it's great what you're doing. I think it's great what we're all trying to achieve is giving people the confidence to trust themselves. We've all forgotten. We've become a nation of followers, and we've forgotten what it is to just say, "Ooh, that doesn't feel quite right. Please don't speak to me like that." Or, "I'm not scared to say that. I'm sure you're not." If somebody really pushes my energy into a place where it shouldn't be, I put my hand up and say, "I love you lots, but do not put Rose in the corner, because I'm not going in the corner."
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. And, you know, and that's 100% true. And now I oftentimes have told them stories where I have gone into my own body and done these different things within my body and see if they want to give it a try or see if they would like to try that. And so, and I think this is something that I've talked about on this podcast before, is that I really feel like we each have a frequency in our voice, a frequency in what we're here to do, which then attracts certain people. And my people historically are people who might not understand the language of an energy healer, as an example, or they might not understand. So for me, they've been to traditional counseling and they're thinking, either this isn't working for me or I need something beyond that, but they don't know what it is. So I'm kind of that next sort of bridge. And then as they start to learn and grow and start to open up, then it may be a situation to where I can say, okay, you might be interested in what this person does. You might be interested in what this person does. And I love this, getting connections with people all over the world, because in this conversation, I can also get a feel for who people are, how they work with their clients, how heart-centered are they. And then if I have someone who comes my way, a client or another healer type or whatever, I can go, oh, I've got someone that may be who you're looking for, and put people together. And I love that, the ability to connect and to collaborate so that we are all shining a light for each other, and then also
Exactly
for
it. Too many people just live behind a door these days. You know, the olden days community was everything. And I don't know what it's like over there, but in the UK, it's almost like everybody has their house and then don't go down the street. I mean, where is the community? So my community now, a lot of my community is on Zoom.
mine too.
because there's a lot of people that have like-minded sort of philosophies, even if they're different, that is open to interpretation and also perspective. I love hearing how you do things and how Johnny does something and how Mary does something, because at the end of the day, that's how we're all going to learn, isn't it?
For sure. And, and I talked with somebody about this the other day. Let's say, 4 massage therapists. Okay, well, they're all going to bring something different,
Yes.
even if
Yeah.
they were trained in the same way, because the way their energy works, the way their intuition works, the way your energy and intuition work with them on any given day. I may know a whole bunch of massage therapists, but maybe I feel drawn to this particular one on this particular day. And I think
Yeah.
that's
That's
really
totally
important
it. Yeah.
for people to have that knowing within themselves that yes, this feels right for me, or no, it doesn't, and also the permission within themselves to go, no, I think that's not working for me today.
Yes.
I'm going to go do this over.
Yeah, much better. You know
Yes,
what?
you do.
What doesn't, like language, we are speaking English, but actually, what does it really mean? Because somebody created a yes and somebody created a no. It doesn't exist. What exists is, do you want to be with Rose? Do you want to be with beautiful Tammy? Then jump in and be with me.
Yeah,
We kind of get stuck in the right way to do things. Tick, tick, tick. If only they taught energetic frequency work in the school level, we'd have a lot more happier teenagers.
yeah,
You know,
I
um,
agree.
I find so I was very, very blessed because my niece lives in Hawaii. She lives in Maui, and she was 19. Our children, my sisters and our children, were brought up in South Africa before we all moved everywhere, and so she moved to Hawaii. But from 19, she was very wise. She joined me on all my spiritual stuff. So she's gone to Peru and she's now in Hawaii and she's settling there. And um, I think it's wonderful, but there's so many of her, she's 40 something now, but there's so many of her generation that are only now starting to look into it. And she's like 20 years ahead because she's focused the last 20 years on her spiritual stuff. I find that also very interesting because she came in as an old soul.
Yeah. Well, when my grandson, I have one grandson who will be 10 very soon, and he is my buddy. We meet on Zoom every week and we do
Oh.
dance parties and read stories and different things. We've also meditated together. He's done hypnotherapy with me. We've pulled cards together. We've done some podcast episodes together. We've done these different things. And when let's see, I this either happened just before he was born or just after he was born. He came to me as an infant in a meditation and said, "Teach me, Grammy," and gave me a gift of a maraca,
Mhm.
like a shaker. And I said, "Oh, okay." So I'm not sure what's getting ready to happen because we were 1,000 miles apart at that point. And I did buy him like a Reiki infused blanket that I had made for him. And then I had a little pouch made for him, a little leather pouch made for him, and some particular crystals I had selected for him and sent to his mom, who's my daughter. And I'm pretty sure she thought I had lost my mind because when I left Oklahoma, my awakening happened like a few months after I moved.
Yes.
So who I became was completely different than the mom who left, or not completely, but there
Yeah,
were a
you
lot of
change.
changes. And so over time, he and I have had some amazing conversations. And I have felt all along that he came with, and I share this as he came with different software, right?
Mhm.
So he's not quite the same as other people that he knows. Now he's gotten a little more indoctrinated into his human experience. And so he's feeling more separated from what we've done together, but we still have this connection every week. And I think it'll come back. I really
Good.
do.
Yeah.
But it is that way because I know the things that we have worked on together have drastically improved things for him. Like we've worked with essential oils together. We've worked on breathing techniques to calm anxiety and just
That's so
different
good.
things like
Yeah.
that. And it's just, I think kids could really benefit from so many things that we know if it was part of a regular curriculum, either at school or at home.
It would bring them balance.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of children, so a lot of divorcee parents would, fathers and mums, bring their any children from 6 to 14, and we would do a class on how crystals can help them find their voice. Then we give them a mommy or daddy crystal, a big one, and then they put it on a little special tray on the windowsill. And then if there's something they really need to talk about, they're happy to put the crystal in there. And it's helped so many children. Some children came here with no confidence and they were being bullied. They've ended up the bully. The parent brings them back because now we have to talk to them. You've got so much confidence that you need to, like, be kind to the other children. So crystals really are a wonderful way of bringing balance through children going through their own, they chose before they were born to come into the parents that are going through these hard times. We all did, and
Mhm.
it is their personal journey. But if you can give them tools to go into school and say speech and be confident, or to go into school and not be feeling like you're worse than somebody else, it's just a lovely way of having a little piece of crystal in your pocket. And it's like God is in your pocket and you're carrying a little bit of light into the room with you. I just wish they could do it in a lot more schools. I think it would be amazing. Breath work. I mean, a lot of kids now, I work with young mums as well, and they lose patience because, of course, they're not really used to having babies. And so then I say, but when you bring your child, because over here they go to school at 3.5, they're very young when they go to school. And so when you bring your child home and they've got to do a coloring of a picture, or just don't rush them and make them do homework until they're 15. You bring them home, sit them down, get them their homework. I said, bring them in, have some crayons, get an adult coloring book, and just let them relax before you put pressure on them. If the
Mhm.
dishes are in the sink from breakfast, leave them there. You can put them in the dishwasher in half an hour. And it's
Exactly.
totally changed. I call your car a breath box. I call my car a breath box. So they now have a breath box. When they put their children in and they pick them up from school, they play calming music. And before they go to pick the children up, they're sending energy ahead of time to say, we're just going to have a really nice, calm journey. And the feedback has been amazing because they're now working with their own energy to send a Gmail to their child to say, we're just going to have a nice chat when you get in the car. And it totally changes that frequency.
It absolutely does. When he was spending the night with me, we would I typically sleep with no sound, no light, no, anything, but he was used to having a light on or noise or something. And so I said, well, how about we try some nice music? And I would put on either meditative type music or frequency type music. And so every time he would come, or every time I go in and visit, he will say, Grammy, can we play some nice music? And so we do that. And then I had given him an emotion wheel that so he could find words for how he was feeling. And when I lived locally, he would say, Grammy, can we have a class with dad? Or Grammy, can we have a class with mom? And so I've worked with mom, who's my daughter, and his
Yeah.
his dad also on some different things like that to help them find those ways, because I was a 17-year-old mom, and so I was very traumatized, full of anxiety. So
Yes.
my daughter is still trying to unlearn all
Yeah.
of those things. And so
Yes.
I'm trying to help them learn things that I've had to walk through and learn. And I think that's so valuable. Is so often you see this in traditional counseling where parents will bring in the kid, like the kid is the
Mm,
problem, fix the kid, and the thing is, there are things that we can all learn and unlearn that creates more harmony for the home,
Definitely, definitely.
energetically, emotionally. I just think I love that
And
you.
do you know what's really interesting, Tammy, is when we actually, it's only like a short 40-minute session, but when we actually sit and we go through the session, I watch the parent, because usually it's one parent or the other one bringing the child in. And then I watch the parent, and they're absorbing more, I think, sometimes than the child, because you're opening them up to a different way of understanding. Well, do you get stuck in your throat? There's dis-ease. Do you have words that you don't say to mommy and daddy? And you can see them, like, you can see the processing going on because they've got words that they haven't got out.
Well, it's so true because sometimes the parents might not hear it if you're speaking with them
Yeah.
directly, but if you're speaking to the child, they're like,
You can
wonder.
see that, yeah, you can actually see the works in the mind, and then when they leave, they're like hugging you, and you're thinking, yeah, you got quite a bit out of that.
I love that. I love that you're doing that because I don't feel like there are enough people working with children or parents in the
Yeah,
spiritual way. And I love that I don't even know if I knew that you did that you worked
yeah.
with children of that
So
age. I
I've
love
got all
that.
my crystals behind, you see, and then some, you can see the spiritually connected, the wise old souls, the little girls and boys that come in. They'll put their hands on my crystals and they'll say, oh, this one's warm and this one's cold. They can see immediately which crystals are ready for work and which ones haven't been tuned in, or they can pick it up straight away.
Amazing.
It's just
They're
amazing. And
very
you know what?
intuitive.
Until children are 11, they trust their intuition. So they come in and they're 6 years of age and they're telling you all this stuff about the crystals because they trust it. As soon as they hit 11, 11 and a half, switch it off.
So interesting. Seeing he'll be 10 next week, so I'm hoping that that doesn't happen
Yeah,
for him.
yeah.
You
But I
know,
think because you're really kind and you've explained to him about crystals, I think when it comes from warmth, then they continue with it. But when it's like they've touched crystals, but they're really embarrassed to talk to anybody about it, then they hide it away. And then they, like I did, I hid her away in a chamber in my heart because I thought the people were laughing at me. I thought my mum and dad thought I was a bit strange. I knew that I was astro traveling. I would go and sleep with my nanny every night. And it
yeah.
was only when I was in my late 20s when I started really going for a lot of workshops and stuff that I realized, oh my goodness, I was visiting her every night. And she died 30 years ago, and she still comes and sits in my room, smoke. She used to smoke, and there's no smokers in my house. And the woodbine smoke is in my room. And then she'll come and sit in a dream and have a chat with me. And so she's still around. So I was definitely astro traveling to her,
I
but I would
love
not have known it because none of my family, they thought I was maybe, something wrong with me. And so I then thought there's something wrong with me. And then I said, no, then it can't be right. Then I switched it off.
yeah.
It's
It
so
sounds
interesting,
like
isn't
the
it?
relationship you had with her is similar to what I have with him. Like we're very close.
Amazing.
He asked me the other day if I would make him some guided meditations. So,
Oh,
and I said,
lovely.
what would you like to have? I said, he goes, well, mainly just your voice, Grammy, and maybe some nice music with it. And I said,
Oh,
okay, all
oh,
right.
that's lovely.
Yeah, so now
That's
I'm
so
trying to
nice.
figure out how I can get it to him where he can actually use it because he does have a phone, but he doesn't have a lot of availability on his phone, and then his phone turns off at a certain time of night, so there's some technological things. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do them and get them to him so he can actually use them. And
Well,
so
let them be an MP3 file that they can download onto his device, and then he just puts his headphones in.
okay, I will do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that was the thing I wasn't sure. Um, Also, if he could on the download, because typically I would send them to somebody through email or through text. But if the file is too large, I usually store everything on Dropbox. and I don't know that he can access drive. So anyway, there's some technical things that I'm trying to work out. And as soon as I have those worked out, I'm going to create some for
Oh,
him
good.
to send to
Excellent.
him. Yeah.
Because you can send him like on OneDrive. I know on Office, you can send him a link to a file that just downloads to his device on WhatsApp. If you send it to him on WhatsApp, he clicks on it, it says download to device. Unless they want to put it on his tablet. If he's got a tablet in his room, it might be easier to do that way.
Okay, I will think about those options because I thought, well, I might be able to send him like a thumb drive, with it on that, but then he's gonna there's a lot of different variables based on
Yeah.
security features and things like
Yes.
that
So find out from your daughter what's the best way, because he might use his tablet and then he might have a Bluetooth speaker in his room. You can just
well, one option that we've thought about too, if we cannot, because I'm usually the techie one also. So if I can't give them a solution that works, one thing that we talked about is I might be able to send it to my daughter and her play it for him through Alexa.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
So I think that may be a good option for us. So
Oh, it's going to be so nice as well. I mean, that's something that is totally unique and special to him,
yeah.
He'll always remember that. He'll always have that in his heart.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, when I had a local place, well, when I was still local to him, we had some hypnotherapy sessions, and we did a couple of podcast episodes and even a live stream where we talked about courage and things like that. And so kind of like what you were talking about, if a child and then they've gotten so overly confident, or
Yes.
they're these, and we would talk about these different things, and I thought, okay, if we did that, then if someone else is listening to this, they might benefit from that too.
Absolutely. Yes.
I
Um,
love
you
that.
know, um, the only people that will benefit from doing this crystal work is the children that come with their parent and the parent.
Yeah.
But once they walk away from it, then they don't share that with anybody because they feel embarrassed. So the crystal's in their pocket or it's in their pencil case. So it's like almost like a hidden, like, oh, they're going to think I'm weird because I've got a crystal.
Yeah.
Children don't think like that. And
Mhm.
if the schools understood that, there's quite a few schools now in Ireland that are doing meditation for 6 to 11-year-olds, which I think is great.
So good. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's something that's on my heart that I would love to do at some point. I became a yoga teacher in January. I don't know when I'm going to fit that in, but I thought, that could be fun to do for kids.
Yes,
It's just when I'm, coming up with the time to be able to do this. So,
that's true.
so I love
There's
that.
so
This
much to do, isn't there?
so much to do. And that's the thing when you have this excitement and this passion, to do what you were called to do. So that made me think, in your work, are you only working locally or are you working online too?
No, I work around the world. So I have group coaching with people that are in the US and Europe and the UK. And then I do readings, online readings, online healings. So I've just got lovely energy. I've got people coming to the house. So I just believe that whoever's meant to be in my frequency will connect. There's no resistance there. I just expect it.
I love it.
And I think sometimes when we have resistance, like you were talking about earlier, resistance, when you and if you try to control your money or your love or your whatever, you will be controlled. So don't have it. Just expect happiness, and happiness will find you.
I
And I
love
think that's so important. We've become this nation of controlling people, trying to be better than the next one, or try to do them, do out somebody else's goals and copy them. And no, don't do that. Just imagine that the whole universe is working to give you your heartbeat and your love and your happiness, and it will find you.
I love it. I love it
Yeah.
so much. And if you can even believe it, I think we're really coming up on the end of our time
Wow.
together. It's so fast. I know it's I don't like looking at the clock, but I have to because I get so excited about these conversations. We could be on here all day. So as we're about to wrap up here, I mean, what you just said was amazing, but do you have any kind of final thoughts that you want to share?
Yes.
Just anything that comes to you.
I would love to say to anybody listening that I want you to understand one thing. I want you to know that in the next week, I want you to just focus on one beautiful frequency. Is that frequency an issue, a situation, or a relationship that you're trying to get to grasps with? Whichever one it is, focus in 4 times. The prescription, the energy prescription is take your energy 4 times a day, and usually 8, 12, 4, and 8. I'm an early morning person. You could do it earlier too. Go and check in for 5 minutes with that one focus point. Now, why I'm saying this is because we have 78,000 thoughts a day. And if you're trying to focus on growing your business, but you've given your thoughts to your family, your mother, your dog, your walk, and you've forgotten your business, and in a month you come back and say, well, it's not working, that's a lot of crap. Excuse the French, but that's a lot of rubbish because you're not focusing 4 times a day on what you set intention for. So please, if everybody has one intention, one focus, please zone in 4 times a day and watch within a week how it just shifts, and watch within 6 weeks how you do this.
Love it. I love it.
That's
Thank
what
you.
I just have such a passion for people, like you were saying earlier, Tammy. We all want to manifest and we think it's going to be easy. Manifestation is not easy. Manifestation is keeping a schedule. I'm a schedule person. You are, Tammy. And
Mhm.
so if I'm manifesting my business to grow, believe me, 4 times a day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, I'm going to be manifesting for my business,
Yeah.
or for my love for my husband, or 41 years and he's my heartbeat. He makes me laugh. He's my foot bitch. He massages my foot every night. And he's just absolutely the best thing on 2 legs. So why? Because this is what I'm expecting. There's no resistance there. He's got to look at me as his queen. And believe me, he does. So please focus on what makes you excited for your life.
I love it. Thank you for that. That was amazing. And for those watching, thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the Holistic Pathway podcast, where we do unscripted conversations on mind, body, spirit, and entrepreneurship. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tammy.